Hey, everybody. It's Christian Pedersen, joined by Dan Dickau, back for another episode of the Gonzaga Nation podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. You are catching us on a mailbag edition. That's where we ask Dan Dickau fan-submitted questions that you guys have sent to us online, on social media, and everywhere in between. You can hit us up at Fan Nation Zags, anywhere you're online. You can follow us by searching and subscribing to the Gonzaga Nation podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Dan, the first one that we got is coming to us from Facebook. Somebody wanted to know what Zag alumni is going to have the best NBA season. I think I know who it is, and so I'm curious if we're on the same page on this one, but the floor is yours.
Wow. We could go in so many directions because there's so many Gonzaga players that I think are poised to have a good season. I think Corey Kispert, he's in a dysfunctional organization, the Wizards right now, but I think he's put himself in a position where, he can have another nice year and sign a nice extension. Kelly Olynyk continues to play well, after already being in the NBA for a decade. Brandon Clark's got to get healthy, but I think if he does, he's got a chance to have a year. But I think the guys that are easiest to peg as having the best season coming up would be Domantas Sabonis, who's been an all-star, and Andrew Nembhard, who I think showed last year as a rookie that he's going to have a really long, productive NBA career. So I think those two, I think you can easily say are going to have kind of the most successful might not be the right word, but I think going to have great years. But I think the one that's really going to surprise people, I think Chet Holmgren is going to have a great year. I thought he was poised to have a good rookie year, and then he got hurt in the Seattle Pro-Am, missed all of last year. But all the clips you see over the summer, whether it was at NBA Summer League or different things, shows that he has put in a ton of work and he's ready to go. And there's got to be part of him that's frustrated about the fact that missed his rookie year. Paolo Banchero won Rookie of the Year, which he probably wanted to be, considered for that had he been playing. And then, he's kind of the unknown right now because Victor Wembanyama comes in as such a hyped rookie from France, and everybody's already kind of penciling in Wembanyama as a Rookie of the Year. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, Chet Holmgren will be the Rookie of the Year.
Good. We're on the same page there. I'm glad that we both answered that. If we're checking our cross-referencing our answers, we're the same there. I think Chet's going to blow up this year as well in a big way. Next question we got comes to us from Instagram. Somebody wanted to know, now that we've talked a little bit about the last of the Gonzaga recruiting for this year, rosters all filled up, got all the commits. Who's next? Who's still in the high school ranks that are some big names that people need to know about now that we focus on the classes 24, 25, 26?
Well, most players that are seniors are, if they haven't committed yet, they're in the process of taking official visits in the fall and or taking home visits. So there's two different parts of visits in the fall of your senior year if you haven't committed yet. One is a home visit where the coaching staff will go to your house, typically have anywhere from a 45-minute to an hour and a half presentation of basically just, here's our program, even though you probably know each other pretty well at that time. Here's our program. This is what we are all about. This is what we hope to provide for you. This is what you think you could do in our program and have success in these ways. This is what you will be kind of, shared with in regards to the basketball program. This is what our academic life is like. This is what the social life at the school is like. This is what life could look like after basketball based on networking that is possible at our university. And so that's kind of what that home visit is all about. Many times a high school coach or an AAU coach would join in on that as well. And then an official campus visit, if you get to that point with a school, they're pretty serious. They fly the player and the parents to the university. You have 48 hours on campus where you get to see the school. Maybe if it's that time of year, you see a practice. You go maybe campus tour. You see where some of the buildings will be that you have classes. Maybe you meet with an academic advisor. You meet with a professor in a possible field you want to study. You hang out with the team. Get to know them a little bit, see where the dorms or the apartments are that you would live at. Just kind of get a feel for campus life in general. But one thing that Gonzaga has done a lot in recent years is some of their high priority recruits. They will have come on Craziness in the Kennel weekend. So that's October 7th. And Gonzaga, the word is that one of their targets for class of 2024, the seniors, will be at Craziness in the Kennel as a combo guard out of the LA area, Harvard Westlake. I believe his name's Trent Perry. That he should be there on Craziness in the Kennel. Cole Forsman, our great journalist, kind of keeps more up to date in regards to recruit targets than I do. But essentially, they want to give a player a full experience of what it's like on campus. But when you get them on campus during an event like the Craziness in the Kennel, they can see just how important Gonzaga basketball is to the school and the community. A lot of times they will also, on a home visit or on a campus visit, they'll make sure it's against a big opponent where the crowd's going crazy, and they see just how cool and unique the kennel is. So that's kind of, the big parts of the recruiting calendar for this fall for class of 2024 players.
I don't know how to track this necessarily, but in the stat-driven era that we now live in, I would love to know the actual conversion rate that the Craziness in the Kennel is working on right now in terms of how many kids come in undecided and come out Gonzaga commits.
That's hard to say. I have no idea. That's a great question. Let's put Cole up to the task of figuring that one out.
I mean, if you had to just complete, I mean, we're talking on the fly here, no time to prep or really think about this, as say that it's 75%, 30%, 10%. It's an elite event. It's one of the better ones in all of college basketball in terms of kicking off the season. So it's got to be up in the higher end tier of, like, if a kid is there for that night, like you said, they see this matters different here. And so, I mean, can I get you on the spot for thinking what kind of number it would be and then we'll have Cole go verify that somehow for us?
Well, it's got to be over 50%, and I think in the recruiting world, if you're closing at 50% of the targets that you really want, in those targets you're putting at these bigger events that you really kind of focus on, that's pretty good. So, yeah, that's a hard one. I don't know if I'm going out on a limb or not with that number, but we'll see. We'll have Cole see if he can kind of track down.
I'm pretty sure 50 is the safest number you could have picked there. Like 99% would be going out on a limb and 1% would be going on a limb. So I think you're doing okay. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Clearing that kind of recruiting, you owe a big, hey, let's give a round of applause to the student section, to the administration, to all the people. I mean, yes, the basketball players make that event happen because they're the basketball players, but there's so many people that maybe don't get an appreciation in the recruiting process when it comes to wowing that final, like, icing on the cake. So shout out to all the unappreciated people there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last question we got for you, Dan. And remember, if you guys want to send in these questions at Fan Nation Zags on all your social media, you can also search and subscribe to Gonzaga Nation wherever you get your podcasts. We got a bunch of episodes coming out. We've talked about Cole Forsman and other content that we do. And that leads to my next question is, somebody wants to know, Dan, when are you guys going to finally start dropping some of these cool player interview episodes you've talked about? I will add self-editorial. We've released some with Stu Jackson, some with Greg Heister. There's some really good content coming out of this awesome new studio, but I'm with the people. Dan, when are we going to see and hear from the players? Pretty soon.
So, as many of you might know, we've kind of announced a partnership with Zags Collective. And so the entireties, the full-length interviews with players are going to live behind Zags Collective domain. But what SI.com and what we're doing on Fan Nation, we will have a ton of short teasers and short little excerpts from these interviews to get people interested in being a part of wanting to join Zags Collective and get the full length interviews. Every single player on Gonzaga's roster, except for June, as well as the most recent commit, Pavel Stosic, and then the walk-on who just was announced as a player, Joaquin. Everybody but those three have sat down for an interview. They have sat down for different segments that we'll be releasing on the different platforms we talked about. But then, not just that, Brian Michelson, assistant coach, we've sat down and recorded a number of different episodes and segments that are going to be being released in the very near future. We'll be recording quite a few bit more. And these are going to be kind of focused, detailed on what exactly does recruiting look like in the college basketball world? What does a practice plan look like, and how does it come together to prepare Gonzaga? What does travel look like? What does the formation of a schedule look like? All these different topics. And then we're also going to be having sit down interviews, some in person with people like Greg Heister, former Zags, some through Zoom in our new studio with other analysts across the nation, like Jay Billis and I right now are finding the time, Seth Greenberg, Fran Fraschilla, Doug Gottlieb, Chris Walker. We got a number of guys on tap that we're going to be recording with in the next couple of weeks to start really creating and pumping out this content, because the season's right around the corner. Because once we get in the
Season's here,
it's
Dan.
talking
Stop talking about the season being down the road for the people.
And don't forget, though, the show with Adam Morrison and I will be starting back up again in October. So kind of the flagship show that we've done the last 2 years. Adam and I will be back. I believe our first day we're going to be recording is 2 weeks from today. And so that means it will be starting to release shortly after Craziness in the Kennel.
Awesome. There you go, folks. That's the whole content plan. That's a ton of stuff. You guys don't understand how hard Dan is working at this. I can also say that the Greg Heister NIL video, I got a crack out of that when you asked Greg, what if you were still in college, what would, if you were a student athlete, what would your NIL deal be? And he just laughed. He goes, no. I'd have to cut a check out to no. Giving me money at 20 would have been awful. So yeah, Dan does an amazing job at getting a lot of what he laid out there for you content wise might be boring if handled by the wrong person, but Dan has some really cool people coming in studio, and supporting Zag Collective supports the athletes. And it's a lot of good going around that you, the fans, can help support. So we hope to have you guys along for the entire journey this basketball season. Thank you very much for tuning in. Talk to you guys next time.